Most people think digestive problems are a modern invention. They assume the bloating, the cramping, the heartburn, the sluggish stomach after meals, the chronic gut issues that millions of people now treat with daily medication. They assume all of this is the result of modern food, modern stress, and modern processed ingredients. And while modern life has certainly made things worse, the truth is something the ancient Greeks understood with absolute clarity more than 2,000 years ago. Digestive trouble is not new. Humans have been struggling with poor digestion for as long as humans have been eating. And the first person to write about it in a careful, systematic, organized way was a Greek physician named Hippocrates, the man modern medicine still honors as the father of Western medicine. Working on the island of Kos in the 5th century before Christ, Hippocrates and his students compiled an extraordinary body of medical writings, and among those writings were specific, repeated, detailed prescriptions for the same kinds of digestive complaints that fill modern doctors' offices today. And here's the part that almost no one knows. The herbs he prescribed for those complaints are not exotic, they are not lost, they are not rare. Most of them are sitting in spice cabinets right now in homes that have completely forgotten what they were originally for. Today, I'm walking you through the exact 6 herbs Hippocrates documented for digestive problems and stomach pain. The same 6 herbs that modern science is now beginning to study with serious attention, and finding that those ancient Greek physicians were remarkably, sometimes startlingly, correct. Hit that subscribe button right now because every week on this channel, I pull back the curtain on the forgotten medical wisdom of the ancient world and the modern science that is finally catching up to explain why it worked. Stick around because number 3 on this list is something most people have in their kitchen, but have no idea was used by Greek physicians as one of the most powerful digestive treatments in their entire pharmacy. And number 1 is a herb so potent, so revered, and so completely forgotten by modern households that Hippocrates and his students called it the master of the stomach. And modern research is now beginning to understand exactly why they use those words. 6 herbs, 25 centuries of medical wisdom. Let's get into it. Number 6. Mint. The cooling herb the ancient world reached for first. Mint shows up across the entire Hippocratic corpus as one of the most frequently mentioned digestive herbs, and for good reason. The ancient Greeks understood through generations of careful observation that a small amount of fresh or dried mint could settle an upset stomach faster than almost anything else available to them. They infused it into hot water. They chewed the leaves directly. They added it to wine and to honey. They mixed it with other herbs and formulations designed for specific complaints. And what they were observing without knowing the molecular reason was the action of a single remarkable compound that modern science has now studied in detail. Menthol. Most people miss this, but menthol does something specific in the digestive tract that very few other compounds can do. It relaxes the smooth muscle of the gastrointestinal system. This is the same muscle that, when it spasms or cramps, produces the familiar pain of indigestion, irritable bowel symptoms, and post-meal discomfort. Multiple clinical studies in recent decades have examined the effects of peppermint oil on functional digestive conditions and found measurable, repeatable relief of cramping, bloating, and the kind of sharp pain that comes from intestinal spasm. The ancient Greeks were not guessing. They were watching. And what they watched, century after century, was that people who drank mint tea after meals had fewer stomach complaints than people who did not. Here's what makes this remarkable. Mint also stimulates the production of bile, which is essential for the proper digestion of fats. A meal that includes oil, cheese, or meat is significantly harder to digest without adequate bile flow, and mint, taken as a tea after the meal, quietly helps the body break that meal down more efficiently. Here's the practical magic of mint that most modern households have forgotten. The dried mint sitting in most spice cabinets is fine, but fresh mint, steeped in hot water for 10 minutes, releases dramatically more of the active compounds than the dried version. A few fresh leaves crushed into a cup of warm water after a heavy meal is essentially the same digestive remedy the ancient Greeks were using in the time of Hippocrates, doing the same job through the same mechanism. 25 centuries of continuous use, and modern science has yet to find a meaningful flaw in the original prescription. Number 5. Fennel, Feniculum vulgar. The herb that tradition holds was given to every child with a stomach complaint in ancient Greek households. Fennel was so completely integrated into ancient Mediterranean medicine that the Greek word for fennel, marathon, became the name of a famous battlefield because the field was covered in wild fennel growing in dense stands. Hippocrates documented fennel in his writings as a treatment for the kind of slow, painful, bloated digestion that comes from incomplete breakdown of food in the stomach. Greek mothers used it to soothe colic in infants. Greek physicians prescribed it to adults with chronic indigestion. And the seeds of the fennel plant, dried and chewed slowly after a meal, were considered one of the simplest, most reliable household remedies for gas and bloating in the ancient world. And here's what makes this remarkable. Modern phytochemistry has now identified the specific compounds responsible for fennel's effects. The plant contains a volatile oil rich in anethole, fenchone, and estragol, compounds that have been shown in research to relax the smooth muscle of the digestive tract, reduce gas production, and support the movement of food through the intestines at a healthy rate. Most people walk right past this, but fennel does something specifically helpful for one of the most uncomfortable digestive complaints of all. Bloating. Trapped gas in the intestines is one of the leading causes of post-meal discomfort, and fennel's compounds have been demonstrated in clinical research to help reduce gas formation and ease its passage through the gut. Here's what most people get wrong with fennel. They assume the leafy frond is the medicinal part. It is not. The seeds are where the active oils are concentrated, and the simplest way to use them? The same way Mediterranean cultures have used them for thousands of years, is to chew a small pinch of whole dried fennel seeds slowly after a meal. The chewing crushes the seed and releases the oils, which begin working within minutes. Alternatively, a teaspoon of crushed fennel seeds steeped in hot water for 10 minutes makes a tea that delivers the same compounds in a gentler form. After dinner in much of the Mediterranean and the Middle East, this is still the practice in older households. It is not tradition for the sake of tradition. It is functional medicine in the form of a small dish of seeds at the end of a meal. Number 4. Dill, Anethum graveolens. The herb Hippocrates specifically named in his writings on ulcers and indigestion. Dill is one of the more specific herbs in the Hippocratic record, mentioned by name in connection with stomach complaints, and used by Greek physicians in formulations designed for what we would now describe as acid-related digestive issues. The plant has been cultivated around the Mediterranean for thousands of years, and its seeds and feathery leaves have been used in cooking and in medicine across cultures that include the ancient Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, and most of medieval Europe. And here's what makes this remarkable. Modern research has identified specific compounds in dill, including carvone and limonene, that have been studied for their effects on digestive function. Carvone in particular has been shown to support the gentle, rhythmic movement of food through the intestines and to reduce the kind of spasmodic contractions that produce digestive pain. Most people miss this, but dill does something modern medications struggle to do. It supports the natural function of the digestive system without interfering with the body's own processes. Where many modern antacids work by neutralizing or suppressing stomach acid, which the body actually needs to digest food and absorb nutrients, dill works by gently encouraging the digestive tract to do its job more efficiently. The ancient Greeks did not know about carvone. They knew about results, and generations of patients told them, over centuries, that dill helped. Here's the practical magic that connects ancient practice to modern kitchens. Dill is one of the easiest herbs to incorporate into a daily diet. Fresh dill stirred into yogurt, sprinkled over fish, added to soup, or mixed into a simple cucumber salad, delivers small but meaningful doses of the active compounds in a form that the body can absorb easily. Dill seed tea, made from a teaspoon of crushed seeds steeped in hot water for 10 minutes, is the more concentrated medicinal form and was the way Greek physicians most commonly prescribed it. Either way, the same compounds Hippocrates was relying on 25 centuries ago are still working today in any kitchen willing to use them. Number 3. Cumin, the spice cabinet ingredient that ancient physicians treated as serious medicine. Most modern people know cumin only as a warm, earthy spice used in chili, curry, and Middle Eastern cooking. What they do not know is that cumin appears repeatedly in the Hippocratic writings as a treatment for sluggish digestion, gas, and the kind of heavy, uncomfortable feeling that follows a difficult meal. Cumin was so deeply embedded in ancient Greek medicine that physicians sometimes carried small leather pouches of the seeds with them when visiting patients. And modern research has now identified some of the specific reasons it works. Cumin contains an essential oil rich in cuminaldehyde, a compound that has been shown to stimulate the secretion of pancreatic enzymes. The enzymes the body uses to break down fats, proteins, and carbohydrates in the small intestine. Here's what makes this remarkable. A person whose pancreas is producing inadequate amounts of digestive enzymes, which is increasingly common in modern populations, will struggle to fully break down meals, leading to bloating, gas, and the feeling of food sitting heavily in the stomach long after eating. Cumin gently, naturally supports the body's own enzyme production. The ancient Greeks did not have a word for pancreatic enzymes. They had a word for relief. And generations of patients reported with consistency that meals seasoned with cumin or followed by cumin tea sat more comfortably than meals without it. Most people walk right past this, but cumin also has documented effects on the gut's microbial population. Research has begun to identify cumin compounds that selectively support beneficial gut bacteria while inhibiting some of the strains associated with digestive distress. This is, in effect, ancient probiotic care, delivered through a seed that costs a few cents per dose. Here's the practical magic of cumin. A pinch of toasted ground cumin in cooking, used regularly, delivers small daily doses of the compound in a form that integrates seamlessly into normal meals. For more acute digestive complaints, a teaspoon of crushed cumin seeds simmered in water for 10 minutes makes a tea that the ancient Greeks would have recognized instantly. They did not invent cumin medicine. They refined a practice already thousands of years old, and they passed it forward through the most influential medical tradition in Western history. The fact that modern kitchens reduced it to a spice is one of the more dramatic examples of how much knowledge a culture can quietly lose. Before we get to the final two herbs on this list, let me ask you something. Are you starting to see what ancient medicine actually was? It was not magic. It was not superstition. It was the result of generations of careful observation, refined into a system of remedies so reliable that the names of those herbs were passed down from teacher to student for 1,000 years before anyone could explain why they worked. That is the philosophy this channel is built on. The idea that the medical traditions of the ancient world figured out things about the human body that modern science is only now beginning to confirm. If that resonates with you, hit that like button right now. It genuinely helps this video reach other people who are tired of being told that ancient knowledge was primitive when the evidence so clearly points the other way. And if you're not subscribed to Forgotten Herbal yet, click that subscribe button and ring the bell. We post every week, and every video is built to pull this kind of wisdom back into modern hands where it belongs. All right, let's get to the final two. Number 2, anise. Pimpinella anisum, the herb of the after-dinner ritual. Anise has one of the most continuous histories of any herb in Western medicine. Hippocrates wrote about it. Roman physicians adopted it from the Greeks. Medieval European households kept it as a staple. And in much of the Mediterranean and the Middle East, the practice of ending a meal with anise, in tea, in seeds chewed slowly, or in an aniseed-infused liqueur in some cultures, has continued unbroken for over 2,000 years. And here's what makes this remarkable. Anise contains a high concentration of anethol, the same compound found in fennel, but typically in even higher amounts. Anethol has been studied for its effects on digestive function, and the research consistently points to several mechanisms. It relaxes the smooth muscle of the intestines, easing cramping. It supports the natural movement of food through the digestive tract. And it has demonstrated mild antimicrobial properties against some of the bacterial strains associated with digestive distress. Most people miss this, but anise does something specific for one of the most common and frustrating digestive complaints: nausea. The ancient Greeks used anise for nausea routinely, and modern research has begun to study why. The relaxing effect on the stomach muscle appears to ease the feeling of queasiness without suppressing the body's natural function in any harmful way. Here's the practical magic of anise that modern households have largely forgotten. A small handful of anise seeds, lightly crushed and steeped in hot water for 10 minutes, makes a tea with a gentle licorice flavor that has been used after meals across the Mediterranean for 2,000 years. In Greek and Turkish households, this is still the practice in older generations. It is not nostalgia, it is medicine. Modern science is beginning to confirm what those grandmothers already knew. And anise has another quiet benefit worth mentioning. Like fennel, it has been used safely in mild forms to help nursing mothers support milk production, and in some traditions it was given to infants with colic. Always under the guidance of a trained healer, never in large amounts. The herb is not a one-trick remedy. It is, like most of the herbs Hippocrates documented, a broad-spectrum digestive ally that the modern world has reduced to a curiosity in a baking section. Number 1. Wormwood. Artemisia absinthium. The herb Hippocrates and his students called the master of the stomach. And here is the herb most people in the modern world have never encountered. Wormwood is the most powerful digestive bitter in the entire ancient Greek pharmacopoeia, and it carries one of the most extraordinary histories of any plant in Western medicine. The plant is named after the Greek goddess Artemis, who in the ancient world was the divine patron of healers and herbalists. The genus name, Artemisia, is shared by a family of bitter aromatic plants that have been used medicinally for thousands of years across Europe, Asia, and North Africa. And in the Hippocratic writings, wormwood appears repeatedly as the treatment of choice for the most stubborn, most chronic, most difficult digestive complaints. Most people walk right past this, but wormwood does something specific that almost no other herb on this list can match. It's one of the bitterest substances in the natural world. And bitterness, in the language of traditional medicine, isn't a flavor problem, it's a mechanism. The taste of bitterness on the tongue triggers a cascade of digestive responses throughout the body. The salivary glands start producing saliva that contains digestive enzymes. The stomach increases its production of stomach acid. The pancreas releases its own enzymes. The liver releases bile. The gallbladder contracts. The entire digestive system, in effect, wakes up and gets ready to do its work. And here's what makes this remarkable. Modern populations, raised on diets dominated by sweetness and lacking in bitterness, frequently have sluggish, understimulated digestive systems. The ancient Greeks understood that bitterness was a vital part of every meal, and wormwood was the most concentrated form of that bitterness in their entire medicine cabinet. Multiple studies in recent decades have examined the active compounds in wormwood, including absinthin and artepsin, and found that these compounds stimulate digestive secretions, support the function of the liver and gallbladder, and may help with the kind of sluggish, incomplete digestion that produces chronic bloating and discomfort. Wormwood also has documented antimicrobial effects against some intestinal parasites and harmful gut bacteria, which is why traditional medicine used it for centuries to address the kind of digestive issues that we now know are often microbial in origin. Here's the critical note. Wormwood is powerful. It is not a daily use herb for casual consumption. Traditional Greek medicine used it in small, carefully measured doses, often as a tincture or a brief tea, taken before meals for a limited period to support digestive function, and then discontinued. Used this way, under the guidance of a trained herbalist or naturopath, it has been recognized for over 2,000 years as one of the most effective digestive remedies in existence. Used improperly, in excessive amounts, it can cause side effects, which is why the modern world should approach it with the same respect ancient Greek physicians did. Hippocrates and his students did not call it the master of the stomach lightly. They earned that name through generations of practice, and modern research is now, slowly and respectfully, beginning to confirm exactly what they meant. 6 herbs, 25 centuries of medical wisdom, one thread connecting all of them. None of these herbs are rare. None of them are exotic. Most of them are sitting in spice cabinets right now or growing wild along Mediterranean roadsides where they have been growing for thousands of years. mint for cramping and bloating, fennel for gas and post-meal discomfort, dill for spasms and indigestion, cumin for sluggish enzyme function, anise for nausea and the after-meal ritual, and the most powerful of all, wormwood, the bitter master of the stomach, used with care and respect as it always has been. The modern pharmaceutical industry will always push you toward a pill, a daily medication, a long-term suppressant. Because medications are profitable and a small dish of crushed fennel seeds after dinner is not. The Greek physicians who built the foundation of Western medicine did not have any of that. What they had was a garden, a careful eye, a tradition of detailed observation passed down from teacher to student for centuries, and a body of remedies so well refined that we are still confirming their effectiveness more than 2,000 years later. Of course, one important note. The herbs that did this work, properly grown, properly dried, properly prepared, bear almost no resemblance to the cheap industrial versions sold in many modern stores. The compounds that made these herbs powerful are concentrated in the real, fresh, high-quality versions, and a pinch of stale, low-grade spice from the back of a cabinet will not deliver what an ancient Greek physician's preparation did. And as always, please consult with a qualified healthcare professional before starting any new herbal regimen, especially if you are pregnant, nursing, taking medications, or managing a health condition. Wormwood in particular should be approached with the guidance of a trained practitioner. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me which one surprised you the most. Are you Team Fennel and Anise for the gentle after-dinner ritual? Team Cumin for the spice cabinet awakening? Or Team Wormwood for the bold, ancient deep cut? I read every comment. And if you got something out of this video, hit the like button and subscribe to Forgotten Herbal, where ancient wisdom meets modern clarity, one forgotten herb at a time. See you on the next one.